If something unexpected hit your life this week, a car repair, a medical bill, maybe even losing your job, would you feel annoyed or would you feel panicked, like the world is shutting down? Because that difference right there, that's not about how responsible you are with money. That's about whether or not you have a financial cushion, whether or not you have a buffer. Today, I'm going to show you exactly how to build your first $10,000 emergency fund, but if you are not in the United States, this still fully applies to you. Think of this as what is my version of $10,000, which a rough estimate is how much money could get you by for 3 months if you stopped making income. But we'll talk more about that number later. Now, if you're somebody who makes decent money, you handle your bills on time, maybe you even do have your financial life together. But the problem is you don't have a solid savings or you don't feel peace of mind like you should. I want you to know that you're not behind. This is stuff that we do not learn in school. As simple as it is, nobody guides us, nobody tells us how to really build financial security as adults. For those new here, my name is Lissa. I teach women how to build wealth in a way that feels empowering, sustainable, and aligned with real life. I think wealth is great, but it's not just about money and dollar figures. It's about how you feel when life happens to you. So let's talk about this number. Why am I making this video about $10,000? This number isn't random. It's very intentional. The common guidance in financial planning is to save 3 to 6 months worth of expenses. And there's nothing wrong with that rule. That is actually a very solid rule to think of your money in terms of time. I personally organize my money in terms of time. If you haven't checked out my video on how to organize money by time, make sure you check that out. So that financial advice of saving 3 to 6 months worth of expenses, there's nothing wrong with it, except coming up with a goal requires extra steps. In order to know how much to save for 3 to 6 months worth of expenses, you have to know how much you spend in 1 month. So you have to calculate your spending, figure out 1 month, multiply that by a few months, and you also have to think about and account for one-off expenses, unexpected expenses. So it takes some work to come up with that number that becomes your personalized goal. And for most people, when they're just starting out with money, that's where they stop. They can't even come up with what is the goal that they're shooting for, so they don't save up for it. So for people just starting out, you do not have an emergency fund yet. You can jump right in if you just have a solid goal. $10,000 works because it's simple. It's a clean, round number. It gives your brain something clear to aim for. And more importantly, it's big enough to matter. It's something tangible and achievable. Like, yeah, $1,000 is achievable and it's a solid amount, but that's not going to carry you for months if you happen to lose your income. Another reason I chose this number is, on average, a single person in the United States spends roughly $3,000 to $4,000 per month, depending on their location and lifestyle, cost of living expenses. What this means more simply, and I alluded to it at the beginning of the video, is $10,000 can cover about 2 to 3 months of real life expenses. It's not going to be perfect for everyone. It's going to depend on your financial situation. But again, if you're just starting out, it gives you something to shoot for. For those of you not based in the United States, I asked ChatGPT, how much would it cost to cover 3 months worth of expenses on average in these places? So you can use this chart as a baseline or calculate your own number. So why do we need an emergency fund? Well, generally, there's this idea that financial security comes from income, but that's not actually 100% true. Yes, having a regular income and earning money is going to give you security on an ongoing basis, but what really matters is how much wealth you own and you keep. How long can you sustain yourself without income, with the money and wealth and assets that you already have? Your emergency fund plays a role in this. Spoiler alert, as you continue to build wealth, you're going to be saving beyond your emergency fund. You're going to be saving into investment accounts, retirement accounts, things like that. But as a foundation, an emergency fund buys you time. It gives you time to think, time to adjust, time to pivot, time to not have to be desperate for money and make desperate decisions if life happens to you and all of a sudden you lost your income or other major unexpected expenses come about. So saving your first $10,000 emergency fund, this is not really about hitting a perfect number, a perfect round number that's gonna save you from every future financial thing. It's about building breathing room. I'm gonna be okay no matter what happens this month. I'm gonna have a runway for myself. I'm gonna get to the part where I tell you logistically how to go about saving this amount. But what's important to think about is why you haven't reached this amount yet, because that's gonna help motivate you to get there. So let's talk about this. I don't think it's because you're lazy, not at all, or because you lack financial literacy. That's a problem in society, but I don't think that is the reason. I think it's because you don't really have a system. Most people will make money, spend it on day-to-day living expenses, including bills, housing, food. Then they want to enjoy some of it, have fun with the money that they're working so hard to earn. And then what happens is they save what's left over. Sometimes that's a little, sometimes it's a lot, and a lot of times it's none at all. What happens when saving is this optional thing that varies month to month and it's just a sometimes kind of thing, it prevents it from happening consistently, which sometimes prevents it from happening at all. I want to introduce you to the concept of paying yourself first. If you are an OG on my channel, you've heard this before, so go ahead and skip ahead if you want to. But if you're new to this concept, what it means is saving money before you spend it. This means money comes in, a paycheck comes in, and you treat saving for future you like a non-negotiable bill. You treat it like it's one of those deductions out of your paycheck, like it happens every time, no matter what. Another reason you might have not gotten to this point yet of having a $10,000 emergency fund is depending on your financial situation and your income, that amount can feel very far away. As humans, if something feels impossible or feels vague, it feels like there's distance between that thing and us, so we tend to avoid it. We're more aware of the things immediately around us. And finally, another reason you might have not gotten to this point yet is all or nothing thinking. Some people think that they barely have any amount to save, so it doesn't really matter. It would take forever, it would take years. But that mindset is going to delay you for years. You have to start with whatever you can, any small amount. So because of that, I don't want you to approach this like this huge, giant goal that is impossible. I want you to think of it in layers. So let's talk about how to actually build your $10,000 emergency fund. This is your real plan. Step one, you break down that big goal into smaller milestones. Save your first $1,000. That's it. This becomes your starter emergency fund. Like I said earlier, it's not enough to carry you months and months without income, but it gives you a basis. It can handle smaller urgent situations. It can handle if you have to take a week off of work without pay. And more importantly, when you save this amount and hit your first milestone, what you're doing is you build trust with yourself. You start to believe you can get that next 1,000 and then eventually that next 10. Step number 2, I alluded to systems earlier, but you have to automate this. If you can automate your saving, it removes decision making. I do not like spending energy on repeatable tasks. I'm a very systems-oriented person. My old job before becoming a financial expert was a global solutions and operations manager. Operations is all about processes and running efficiently. So for me, saving should happen on autopilot. What you can do is set up a direct deposit that goes straight to savings every time you get paid, if your employer allows it, if your employment situation allows it. Alternatively, you can set up an automatic transfer every time you get paid straight into a savings account. And here's what I want you to do. Rather than put this off until you can calculate and try to decide how much you can actually sustain regularly, I want you to just pick a number, pick an amount, guess. It could be $50, it could be $300. Guess an amount, set up the direct deposit or transfer, and see how it goes for the first month. If you have completely run out of money for the rest of your bills and expenses, obviously you can take a little bit back. But for some of you, it's gonna feel no different. You're gonna be happy that you're saving, you're not gonna touch that system, and it's already set up, so it's just gonna happen. And then the goal here is if you get into that bucket of people where you start to save regularly on autopilot and you don't notice that money missing, or better yet, you get a raise or you get more income coming in, you can increase that number over time so that you're automatically saving a bigger amount. That's how you're going to get to that $10,000 so much faster. Step 3, I want you to find your invisible money. Invisible money is money that you're spending without intention, money that ends up getting spent and you can't even think about where it goes because it all adds up and it just disappears. The biggest culprits for this are subscriptions. Any subscription you have, especially ones for fun and entertainment or beauty services, things like that. Convenience spending. So if you can just hop onto Amazon and buy something in 10 seconds with the click of a button, that can lead to a lot of money disappearing without you realizing it. And lifestyle creep is another big area that tends to happen when people make more money and they spend more because naturally they believe they can increase their lifestyle, buy nicer things, spend more without actually looking at the numbers. We're not trying to cut out joy and things that matter to us. We're just redirecting what doesn't matter. Because I think this process of building wealth should still feel enjoyable and not feel like you've restricted every single thing out of your life, because you do have to enjoy some of it now. Now, a bonus little tip for getting to that first $10,000 emergency fund is think about windfalls. If you are expecting a tax refund or a gift or an inheritance or a big bonus at your job, before that money comes in, I want you to think about a rule for yourself. Think about a rule of how to split that windfall of money. Is it 50% to savings and investments and 50% to enjoy and spend now? Or is it more like I'm going to enjoy 20% of that, put 40% of it towards my debt, and 40% of it towards saving? If you can think of irregular income like this with a rule in mind, it's going to prevent you from overspending it when it does come, and it's going to absolutely accelerate your progress towards that goal. I believe you can do this. I believe maybe for some of you, you can even do this by the end of the year. What I want you to remember is there's no perfect time. There's no, I'm gonna wait till I make more money or wait till things aren't so crazy in my life. You have to think about, how do I start with the next smallest step today? Is that setting up my direct deposit? Is that just transferring $100 today into a new account to get me started? If you can do this, your momentum is going to build and you will eventually hit that number. And I hope that that happens for you sooner than later. I hope this video was helpful, and until next time, peace out.